Welcome to Lenworth the Lonestar's Country Radio Review. As Beyonce gears up to release the third act in her highly acclaimed musical trilogy, I think it's a perfect time to look back and review her epic impact on country music with the release of her eighth studio album, Cowboy. As a kid who was raised in Texas and has been a fan of Beyonce for decades, but also loves to sing and write my own country songs, I knew how monumental this moment would be for black music history and country music alike. It wasn't lost on me either that two of the biggest pop stars in the world, both who just so happened to be affiliated with country music, Beyonce and Taylor Swift, both helped boost the American economy with their record breaking sold out stadium tours that brought incredible revenue to every city they stopped in.
Beyonce's latest album blows me away as a longtime fan of her music for so many reasons. I was born in Toronto, Canada, but raised in Texas, and though I fought the Texan culture for a few years as I got acclimated to the new environment, eventually I'd embraced Texas as my home. Following Beyonce's career for so long, which started in Texas and now her going into country is so cool to see. I worked on my own independent country album for several years, and to see my favorite performer jump in the genre and elevate other black country artists at the same time is incredibly heartwarming and inspiring. I've been saying for years that though some black women have gotten into country, very few, if any, had hit records in the genre in decades. Now Beyonce brought this conversation to the mainstream by becoming the first black woman to have a number one on the country charts in the genre's long history. And for context, hip hop is a much newer genre, but yet a white woman, Miss Iggy Azalea, snagged a number one rap song several years ago. I've been listening to literally all of the black country artists Beyonce featured on this album, except Shabuzi for several years. Shabuzi was a new artist for me, but I've recently caught up on his music and it's so good. I peeped that Beyonce didn't just get the black artists who already have accolades and hits on the country charts. I'm sure Mickey Guyton, Kane Brown, Breland, or Jimmy Allen would have loved to collab with Beyonce, but they all have records on the country charts. Beyonce collaborated with artists who all haven't charted on the country charts yet, putting all these artists onto this history-making moment in history, with several black country artists finally getting their first entries simultaneously. I love to see it. And I love the sound and imagery that Beyonce has conjured with this album. I'm a huge fan of Beyonce, so while some are acting surprised about her foray into country, for me this totally makes sense. Beyonce has constantly referenced her southern root throughout her music and visuals. I feel like when Beyonce writes a song, she imagines the character she's singing through. If you remember the Deja Vu music video, she became a woman on a Louisiana bayou estate as if she was in another past life. Deja vu is a French word, after all, part of her Louisiana Creole ancestry that inspired her name, which is a family name. In my opinion, this album is exploring that woman's story much more. How does Beyonce's life intertwine with the Black American stories that made her and that came before her? She is Southern. She has a country accent, and that is a mix of African, Latin, Spanish, Indigenous, and French, all that makes up her Creole roots. In fact, one of the songs that didn't make Beyonce's B-Day album, deluxe version, is Creole, an up-tempo song celebrating the different skin tones that make up Creole people. We again see the ode to black Southern cultures, especially in her Lemonade album, which was chock full of these black Southern images in videos like Formation, Hold Up, Love Drought, and especially the straight-up country western banger, Daddy's Lessons. And there's a reason that country artists constantly cover her hits like Irreplaceable and If I Were a Boy. They're pop ballads that could easily be interpreted into country songs, so Beyonce's always been Southern and country adjacent. Plus, Beyonce's dancing style that she has made a staple of her choreography is J-setting, bucking, or 8 counts, a very specific Southern black dance style popularized by majorette dancers from HBCUs, or historical black colleges and universities in the South. Beyonce's J-setting, which is named after the Jackson University elite dancers of the J-sets, can be seen in one of her most iconic dance videos, Single Ladies, which is yet again a very Southern-sounding upbeat dance track that could easily be reimagined into a country song. The album opener, American Requiem, has an almost old gospel feel, which is perfect for an album that seems to reclaim country back for black listeners and creators. Country music came from black gospel hymns from the slaves of the American South, so starting off with a tribute to their memory is a perfect way to start off this album. A requiem is literally a funeral song for the dead, so Beyonce is being very intentional about invoking the indigenous and African American ancestors lost to the violence and erasure of American history. With lyrics like, "Can you stand for something? Now is the time to face the wind. Coming in peace and love, y'all." Beyonce is imploring the listener, white and black, to be honest about America's history to move forward. The harmonies are gorgeous and somber and a sobering start to the album. To continue the same theme of race in America, the second track, another heartfelt ballad, though much simpler in vocal arrangement and production, is Blackbird, a cover of the pop rock legends The Beatles song that already has its foundation rooted in lyrics about race. The original 1968 song was a thinly veiled metaphor about segregation in America during the 60s, and black women in particular navigating their way through incomprehensible societal hurdles. Not only is this song beautiful and poetic, Beyonce decided to make history yet again by adding several up and coming black women country singers to add their vocals to the song. For years now, I've been listening to singles from Brittany Spencer, Tanner Adele, Tierra Kennedy, and Raina Roberts, hoping that one day I'd see one of their songs on the country charts, and now their moment has arrived. To commemorate this cool moment in musical history, all of the ladies featured on this song went out and got blackbird tattoos. How effing cute. I've been telling my friends and anyone who would listen for years that country music will never be truly an integrated space until we have successful black women on the charts, as well as black men. We've seen Charlie Pride, Darius Rucker, Jimmy Allen, and even Kane and Blanco Brown get hits on the country charts over the years, but black women barely chart, and if they do, they never made it to the top 10. Now it's almost assured that every last one of these ladies who have been putting in their hard work and got to sing on this record will get their first hits on the charts with this song. Beyonce brought the meaning of this song to life by making sure these ladies' names get etched into the country music history and the charts with her. Never has this many black women country singers had a group song make it to the country charts, so it'll be cool to see what doors may open for these ladies in the future. 16 Carriages, Beyonce's second single from the album, initially confused people when they heard it, but maybe because I'm a fan, the message of the song was so clear to me. In country songs, you're supposed to write about your life, and 16 Carriages is a clear track about Beyonce entering the world of Hollywood at the age of 16 and kissing her life of anonymity and childhood innocence goodbye. Some kids' rite of passage is a bar mitzvah at 12 or a quinceañera at 16, but Beyonce was signing record deals and getting on tour buses, or a carriage, so to speak. Beyonce laments about all the anxiety she felt becoming an adult and leaving her childhood behind on this booming sonic track that I can't wait to see her perform. On the track Protector, we get to see the flip side of Beyonce becoming a mama bear, vowing to protect her kids, including the adorable Rumi, who was a short featured vocal on the track. I didn't realize till this album that Beyonce hasn't really been an interlude girl for years. The last time we had interludes like this on an album was on the Destiny's Child albums that usually had interesting and hilarious interludes, but on this album, there are plenty of iconic interludes on Cowboy Carter. I luckily got to see Willie Nelson perform in LA, and I was surprised to see him on the album, though I shouldn't have been. Willie Nelson has literally encountered all of the country, rock, and pop icons since the 50s, including Elvis, Little Richard, Johnny Cash, and Chuck Berry. So him introducing Beyonce to her Western era on this album is just continuing what he's been doing for longer than many of us can imagine. Texas Hold'em is the lead single, and it's a feel-good dance party song, mixed in with lyrics about dancing with your lover, something we can all get behind no matter what sound of music you usually listen to. If you don't know, this song shot to number one, not just on the Billboard Hot 100. It also reached number one on the Billboard Country radio charts, making Beyonce the first black woman in the chart's history to reach that spot. Beyonce not only made a feel-good country track, she just kicked down a door for black women in the genre. The song has plenty of different dance versions all over TikTok, and to me this track reminds me of a similar recent black country artist tracks that hit the top of the charts, like Lil Nas X's Old Town Road and Blanco Brown's The Get Up, both which broke huge country music records on the charts. Bodyguard is another feel-good love song about Beyonce wanting to protect the loved ones around her, and this song is a lot more predictable country sounding compared to the many of the other tracks on this album that definitely mix in other genres into this melting pot of an album. And I think that's the point of the album. Country and Western has many cultural references, and adding Southern hip-hop to that shouldn't take away from its countryness because it's black people. Even the rappers are still country because that's where they come from. The Dolly P interlude is hilarious, which is no surprise. Dolly Parton is one of the funniest and most congenial superstars in music history, and I love that now Dolly P officially has a rap name. On this adorable interlude, Dolly B commiserates with Beyonce on the trouble she's had with Jolene and introduces Beyonce's rendition on the song. I'll admit when I first heard that Beyonce was rumored to cover Dolly Parton's famous song Jolene, I thought it was a bad idea because that song has been covered so many times. However, I didn't realize that Beyonce would keep the melody and would add her own lyrics to add her own personal flavor to it. As we all know, Beyonce has been strategically public about her marital issues with Jay-Z, so to hear a track that finally addresses the other woman directly is iconic. Some of my favorite lines are Jolene, I'm warning you, woman, find your own man. Jolene, I know I'm a queen. Jolene, I'm still a Creole bangy bitch from Louisiana. Clearly, that line is specific to Beyonce, and at this point, we expect some of that aggression from her in her lyrics. Daughter is another Western song that leans into another branch of country's origins that many people may be confused by. But European opera styles are a part of the country genre and Southern people's musical stylings. In my head, on the track, Beyonce invokes a Southern lady in a small town lamenting or confessing her sins in a chapel after she takes someone's life. On Daughter, she admits that though she acknowledges her father's sins that had a profound effect on her, maybe she's more like him than she'd care to admit. Business savvy, aggressive, or in her own words, colder than Titanic waters. This song is almost like an answer to Daddy's lessons, where she is aware of her own flaws and ability to be emotionally and brutally cold. In fact, the very first lyrics sound as if she killed someone. Looks like Beyonce, in her imaginative Western world, isn't above shooting bullets, too. But if you ask me, maybe the killing she does isn't literal, but it's killing people's music careers or being a beast in the music business. Daughter is one of my favorite records on the album. The imagery she invokes is not only beautiful, identify with the storyline. On Daughter, Beyonce also sings a popular and haunting Italian opera, Caro mio ben, before jumping into a hip-hop inspired track called Spaghetti. But what in the world does Italian opera and spaghetti have to do with country music, you may ask? Well, not only do Italian Americans have their own history in the American South and West, I learned on TikTok that spaghetti became a popular food amongst African Americans in the days after slavery, when Black Americans shared ghettos and neighborhoods with poor Italian immigrants. Not only have Black Americans been cooking spaghetti for generations in America, Beyonce has been watching Westerns for artistic inspiration for this album, particularly spaghetti Westerns. Spaghetti Western is a broad subgenre of Western films that became popular in the 1960s, particularly in European countries like Italy that romanticized the American Old West. The 1960s is an era that Beyonce is clearly pulling inspiration from in her albums, and her fashion style for this era as well. So spaghetti, again, isn't as random as people think. On the track Spaghetti, which has way more hip hop influence than most of the other songs on this album, Beyonce is rapping but still using country western terms and dialect throughout the song. Again, if you aren't getting the point by now, is that country can be a mix of many genres and has been for decades, including hip hop. Spaghetti is Italian, but also became Black and Creole in America, and in the same way, so has Southern and country music. The intro to this song comes from one of the Black matriarchs of country music, Linda Martell, who was set to become country's first Black woman superstar in the 1970s, but she would later leave the music business because of the discrimination she faced. Beyonce even tapped another rising country star, Shaboozey, to accompany her on the track, which makes sense because even Shaboozey has been known to blend hip hop and country into beautiful and original sounding music. Alligator Tears, even just visually, takes me back yet again to Beyonce's B-Day era when the album cover and visuals were all about Louisiana swamps and bayous, and she was literally holding alligators on a leash. Though the common phrase is crocodile tears, Beyonce sings of alligator tears on this somber, more classically simple country song. The song mysteriously sounds like she's singing of a complicated loving relationship of someone who she can't trust but loves anyways. Just for Fun is a much more somber country soul track where we see Cowboy Carter teaming up with another country artist I've been listening to for years, Willie Jones. Many remember Willie Jones for becoming the breakout country star on the second season of X Factor. And he's been releasing country singles like Down for It, Back Porch, and Down by the Riverside for years now. This inspiring track seems to celebrate Beyonce and African Americans' accomplishments through the fame and the struggle of American strife. Willie Jones' deep baritone vocals complement Beyonce's nicely on this contemplative duet. Another one of my favorite tracks on the album and the second hit song is the Pleasant Surprise duet Two Most Wanted featuring Miss Miley Cyrus. In retrospect, Miley is the perfect collab for the song because she can hold her own with Beyonce vocally and has been blending pop music, country, and hip hop in her own music for several years. This powerful and inspiring ballad is giving everyone heavy Thelma and Louise vibes, especially considering that the movie is a damn near a modern western about a deep friendship with the two young women running from the law. The Shotgun Rider is about being beside someone for the long haul, as if their love is a metaphorical car on the run from the law. Jay and Beyonce have played on the imagery of another popular Western couple from pop culture on their first duet and hit single, '03 Bonnie and Clyde. They have consistently used this theme on their joint on the run tours, so it should be no surprise this theme is coming up again in this song. Miley and Beyonce's big vocals match each other perfectly. They both have husky rasps to their voice, and obviously, they both come naturally to the southern twang, so they nailed this duet. Levi Jeans is one of the sexiest songs on the album, and it sounds like one of those songs you could cruise in the car to. Post Malone, another country and hip hop adjacent artist, compliments her so well on this song. Yaya is another one of my faves from this album, where Beyonce takes us to the 1960s when black country artists like Ray Charles and Chuck Berry were tearing up the stage. Yaya automatically makes me want to dance, which I think is the point. And yet again, Beyonce references her southern roots, the original spelling of her name, Beyonce, a family surname that has been in Louisiana for many generations. In this song, I'm reminded of her single 80s era, which has a black and white retro 60s vibe, where all she needs is to sing and dance to get the fans going crazy. Like she says on the track, I just want to shake my ass. Let's have a blast. Tyrant is another one of my favorites on this album, and there's been a lot of speculation online about what the song may mean. I've heard some great theories, and I want to add my own to the mix. A black TikToker pointed out that the first verse, which is very somber, literally is talking about a hangman, with lyrics denoting the wife of a woman crying out to the white man who may have lynched her husband. Even after African Americans were supposedly free in America in the South, black men were arbitrarily lynched by white Southerners, and the white Southerner even made it a celebratory event, sharing food and drink as they sat and rejoiced under the black man's swinging body, eventually becoming called picnics, or pick-a-nun, you get the point. But people get confused after the somber song ends, and all of a sudden we're introduced to a hip-hop beat, and Beyonce is talking about all her riches, her sensuality, and her sexiness and ability to perform. But that's just it. These two stories are tied together. The first tyrant mentioned in this song is the hangman, the white man who oppresses black Americans. But because of all that trauma in modern times, Beyonce herself has become the tyrant, using her talent and her sexuality to become a billionaire.